Ready to go, and the game should be starting shortly. So it looks like Innovation brought Druid, Warrior, and Mage, and Vioten brought Druid, Warrior, and Rogue. Now, so the difference here is the Mage and the Rogue. Now, as we can see, it's probably a tempo. It's a tempo mage because of that arcane blast. Oh, that's an interesting keep of the brawl. The second fire war axe, I'm not like when you're keeping two fire war axes, you don't expect your opponent to really build up a large board. So keeping the brawl is a questionable pick there. And then this is a control warrior from. Vioten. This is a control warrior, which is the really only true control deck in Hearthstone. Well, truly viable control deck. There's also control priest and a whole bunch of other control decks, but control warrior is really truly the only viable one. Now, with that actual Shield Salmon Ham, that armor up makes more sense. Ooh, a Stable Ghoul. Okay, I'm personally a Control Warrior player. It's my favorite deck in the entire game. I've grinded more games of Control Warrior than anything else. So I love to see how people change their decks and those small little things. And Unstable Ghoul is a definite tech card against aggro. And the Double Pilot Shredder is really strong for the Tempo Mage. Polymorph is an interesting decision. And see, the Unstable Ghoul is coming in great effect here. The Mad Scientist pulled out a mirror entity, and now which copies the minion your opponent plays. And the fact that he had a small minion like Unstable Ghoul is really strong, because mostly warriors, like besides armors with an acolyte, they usually have only Sludge Belcher bigger. So, and running that into a mirror entity and giving your opponent a free Sludge Belcher bigger is usually very painful. So the fact that Unstable Ghoul came in real handy there. But that polymorph is an interesting tech decision. I recently put Big Game Hunter in my Tempo Mage deck because I feel that's the Tempo Mage needs that kind of removal at this point. There's just so many big things in the meta. There are Sea Giants, there are Mysterious Challengers, like Tyrion, like all this stuff is really hard for the Tempo Mage to deal with. Hell, Savannah Highmane is one of the hardest things for a Tempo Mage to deal with. So Polymorph is an interesting decision. That is a very interesting play. I would have really liked him to kill the Drake there. He really needs to remove that spell power, and the Flametongue Totem isn't good by itself. So usually I usually you want to try to remove everything else off the board. So basically the Flame Tongue is useless. Like, just removing the Flame Tongue, the Azure Drake and the Shredder are still on the board. So it's a questionable play. And out of Vioten here, we see Reno Jackson, so I'm curious what 2-ups he's playing. We've always seen a 2-up Fire War Axe. In my Reno Jackson Control Warrior deck, play 2 Death Bites as well. So, but those are my only 2 2-ups. But he might be playing 2 Executes, 2 Shield Sams as well. That can be a decision a lot of people make, because those are such critical cards for Control Warrior. The ability to just remove a big minion for 1 mana is where Control Warrior gets a lot of its power. So, okay, so he's running 2 Executes. So I'm really curious to see what other 2-of he's running. Or if he's just saving the Reno Jackson. Now the Dr. Boom last turn was pretty standard, like Tempo Mage play on, or pretty much play on curve at this point. Here I will probably see Loatheb and Flamewaker, or Flamewaker double cane missile. Is that, oh, that's lethal, okay, yeah. So that is a win for innovation. Now, looking at this, the Mage is out, so innovation could queue Druid and Warrior, and then what's left is Rogue and Warrior and Druid for Vioten. I would be, if I would here, I'd probably queue up the Druid as innovation, but. Okay, he's gonna queue up the Warrior. Both are pretty equal. Personally, I would like to try to match my Warrior against, like, guarantee my Warrior against his Rogue. So, I guess playing the Warrior first also does that because it gives you more chances. Basically, the Warrior versus Rogue matchup is really strong for the Warrior. Like 90-10 in favor of Warrior. It's just so favored that, like, it's basically a free win for the Warrior if you manage to hit that matchup. So I can see his thinking here and playing the Warrior over the Druid. Now this is a Control Warrior mirror, so prepare for a pretty long game here. And usually, especially with Justica True Heart in the game, which makes the Warrior Hero Power gain 4 armor, this matchup will often go to Fatigue, and it's actually not, in most matchups you usually want to draw a lot, and this you actually don't want to draw, like, if at all. Like, you usually only want to draw 1 card off Acolyte, and then the cards off your shield blocks, and that's about it. A lot of times you'll see players slam for no draw, which is a 2 mana card that deals 2 damage, and when you draw a card, and when it doesn't kill the creature, it draws a card. Usually you'll see them try to use it and not draw with it, and actually kill the minion with it, because they don't want to draw. Because the more cards you draw in your deck, the closer you are to Fatigue, and the worse off you are the later this game goes. So it's very contradictory to traditional matchups, and it's my personal favorite matchup in the game. I love this, using the Fire War Axe twice on the Fierce Monkey, because you just, like, Fire War Axe doesn't get much value in this matchup, so just using it 1-for-1 is fine. Like, you just want to get maximum value out of cards. Ooh, Charade. That's an interesting card. Basically, Inspire is a mechanic. When you use your hero power, it does this effect. So it's basically actually a 7 mana card where you get your hero power value and you add a random spell to your hand. So it's a very high value, high control card that we usually don't see in the current meta because it's so fast. Ragnaros as well. This is a very unconventional control warrior deck. I'd be very surprised if he plays that Charade here. This isn't a matchup about tempo, which that is a tempo play. You're not trying to get the maximum value out of it, you're just trying to get it on the board. You're giving your opponent now ability to remove it without it giving you a spell. But as we can see, it's actually kind of difficult for for this Nexus Champion to remove. The Dr. Boom is a play I definitely agree with, especially with a high value minion on the board like that. You don't want to lose it to Boom Bot, so it becomes a very awkward situation for your opponent usually. I'm also very curious to see that misdirection. I would probably try to save that and, like, kind of get your opponent with it on maybe a turn you're predicting them to hit you in the face with Grom. Like, there's no reason to play that there. This matchup isn't about spamming your, just using all your mana. It's about making the most cost-effective plays. And a lot of the times, that's actually just doing some, like using maybe 4 your mana, Death Bite, and then Hero Power. Like, you don't need to use all your mana in this matchup. You just need to get maximum value out of all your cards. So, because this game is going to fatigue, which means if you go 2 for 1 more often, and both of you draw 30 cards, then you're in the end gonna have more cards left over. And drawing and using your Death Bite on an Armor Smith, your second charge of Death Bite, which can be used to kill Belchers, to kill Shield Maidens, these threats that you don't want to necessarily use prime removal on, like Shield Slam and Execute. Like, the second charge of Death Bite is usually done to do that. It actually puts your opponent in awkward positions by just keeping that second charge of Death Bite for a long time. And makes it so like they can't play like an Emperor Thracian or Shield Maiden Sludge Belcher without them knowing that's just going to get removed easily. But it seems like innovation here, I mean, Vioten here is going for way more tempo-oriented game style, which is kind of okay with Ragnaros. But then the contradiction is the Harrison Jones, which means he's going for a more longer game. I'm very interested to see if this works out for him, because he's drawn 3 more cards, and as you can look at by Innovation's hand, he's got more cards in his hand, which means Innovation has gotten a lot more value-wise, but Innovation has a lot less HP, so now this misdirection is really going to come to bite Innovation here if he's going for the play I think he is, where he's going to kill, and then run the Grom in. Yeah, that's game. Okay. It looks like Vioten's more aggressive style play came out on top this time. Usually it doesn't, but it's nice to see that the traditional just plan on going to fatigue, don't draw any cards, try to get just a card true art out as fast as possible, just armor up as fast as possible type of gameplay isn't always the strongest one. So that was nice to see. Now that leaves Vioten with his Druid and his Rogue, and Innovation with his Druid and his Warrior. Now, the fact that the Warrior versus Rogue matchup hit, as I explained earlier, this is very unfavored matchup for the Rogue player if this is a traditional Oil or Raptor Rogue list. Actually, Raptor Rogue is banned due to the bug, so this can't be Raptor Rogue. Right now, there's a bug with Unearth Raptor, the new card, where it can cause your opponent's client to crash, or your own client to crash. And so, for fairity of everyone, I ban the card from the tournament until it's fixed. So this is either a Mill Rogue or probably a Mill Rogue, actually, looking at the cards in the Rogue's hand, which actually makes this a decent matchup for the Rogue player. Like, actually slightly favored, in my opinion, for the Rogue player, because the Rogue's plan is to go to fatigue, and it does it better than the Warrior. So for a second it looked like he eviscerated the face, so I just completely was shocked there. But the double heal bot tells me it's probably a fatigue Rogue. You usually don't see that in Oil Rogue. It's normal to see 1 heal bot, but not 2, because Oil Rogue is a lot more about tempo and getting on the board, and Healbot, a 5 mana for a 3/3, isn't very tempo based. It isn't a good tempo card. It's just a card to help you set up for a kill combo. There we go. The Death Lord, definitely a fatigue deck. This is definitely fatigue rogue, a mill rogue, which relies on Cold Light Oracles and the reusing of them through Shadow Steps and gang up to constantly draw your opponent's cards, and then they don't draw as much as your opponent. And on top of that, Gang Up is a 2-mana card that adds 3 copies of a minion into your deck, so it increases your deck size. So it makes it so your deck is larger, and since you're both drawing cards due to the Cold Light Oracle, which draws both players 2 cards, it puts both players in a fatigue position, but it puts the rogue in a way better spot, and then all they try to do is survive with cards like Death Lords and Healbots. And the reason why this is so slightly favored for the rogue player is because the main weakness of Mill Rogue is pressure, early pressure, because they don't have mana to do all these fancy combos against early cards, and then if they play Cold Light Oracle to try to find their answers against these early threats, they die. They refill the hands of the more aggressive decks. Yep, and to bash here, see what you get, and then that is a very excellent card to get, especially since it clears off the Blood Mage Thanos. I'd be surprised if he plays anything else here. The Mill Rogue is an awkward position. As I explained, the Cold Light Oracle is the key card of this deck. So one of the main issues for the Mill Rogue is that they just don't draw it. It is so hard. If they can't win if they don't draw the card, because it's basically the entire core of their deck. And as you can see, the new card Brand Bronzebeard, which doubles a battle cry when it's played, is really strong in this deck because it can make your opponent draw 4 cards off Cold Light Oracle, or it can make Healbot heal you for 16, or it can make. Those are the 2 primary uses. I'm thinking there's an other, but it's a really strong card in Mill Rogue. But here it didn't get much value. He didn't get the full 16 heal, and on top of that, it's not even really it's challenging the board, but only on the board. Like, Control has so many answers to this. Now I'm surprised to see him trading in the Baron getting into the Healbot like that. Okay, he wants. Okay, he's going for something. He's going for something cheeky here. He's trying to steal the Brand Bronzebeard. Well played. Okay. He doesn't really have any Battlecry's effects to use with it, besides Jessica Trueheart. But Jessica Trueheart being used twice doesn't really do anything. Like, it doesn't make your hero power give you 8 armor or anything. It just does the animation twice. It really doesn't do anything. So he's just going for something cheeky. He thinks maybe he's won this game already. And usually, I'm surprised. I would be trying to finish this game as soon as possible before give the Mill Rogue less chances to draw. To draw into Cold Light Oracle, because as you can see, he'll be able to play Cold Light Oracle here and then gang it up and add more to his deck. And you see, Death Lords are pulling more cards out of his deck. So if you look at the card count, Actually, interestingly enough, the warrior has drawn less cards than the mill rogue. I really disagree with the heal bot here. I honestly think the play is the pass. Just diagram in the face and pass. Try to get a big vanish off later. You just need to hope for Cold Light Oracle, and then you vanish, and then you Cold Light Oracle, and then you give your opponent all the cards back in their hand, and then you draw them more cards. So when an opponent reaches more than 10 cards, any cards that are extra are just removed. Yeah, this is definitely the play, is to just pass. Like, the heal bot is doing nothing here. Now, as the warrior, I think it's important to just end the game as soon as possible. Like, just playing Harrison actually fine. I would be surprised if he did, though. Ysera is probably the best play, because it can give you cards like Ysera Awakens or Nightmare that give you more damage and can help you finish off the game a lot faster. And Dream isn't too bad in this matchup, because you can just like Dream his Armor's Breath, get rid of it if he needs to get rid of cards. But hopefully he draws Cold Light here. This will be a very uninteresting game if he doesn't draw Cold Light. Okay. This is... yeah, the prep vanish. And I'm pretty sure the warrior is going to mill one card here. The next card he draws. Oh no, I was wrong. I can't see the card count clearly for the innovation. By the way, that innovation is named after the actual StarCraft player Innovation. He's a huge StarCraft fan, so that's pretty cool. Vioten, I don't know where that's from. And for those who don't know who Innovation here is, he actually just competed in BlizzCon. He unfortunately got knocked out, I think, in the round of 8 or 16 for StarCraft BlizzCon, and he was actually the favorite to win the entire event, so it was very surprising that he lost at BlizzCon. This is a pretty boring game. Oh, there we go. There's the magic. Let's go. Cold Light Oracle. Gang up. That has to happen. He needs more of those cards. Oh man. That's so good. You have to just play it again. You got plenty of those. Just burn more cards. Yeah, prep vanish. It removes all the cards that are on the board because he already has 10 cards in his hand, so he can't put more, so those creatures are just destroyed. And this is why I said the warrior needs to try to win this game as fast as possible, because this can happen. Him doing all that cheeky stuff actually may cost him the game here, which would be very disappointing. And see, even playing this Harrison Jones, it draws him another card. Like, it's so incredibly awkward for the warrior when the rogue draws a Cold Light Oracle. They have all these tons of clunky, high mana cost cards that they can't just dump out, and most of them are situational, like Execute and Shield Sam. You need opponents that have a minion on the board to play them. What if your opponent doesn't have a minion on the board? then you're forced to play 1 to 2 cards at a time. And then the Coldlight Oracles just keep burning your cards. Like, this is, I love to see this. This is awesome. Just constantly milling, burning cards. I'd be surprised if he plays the other one. I'm pretty sure that he put. Oh no, okay, he's got 1 left in his deck still. But yeah, sapping there I think is the correct play. I actually would have preferred to see him sap first, because he wants his opponent to have the clunky Harrison Jones in his hand, which would draw him more cards and put him more in fatigue rather than some other random card. But so you guys know what happens when you run out cards in your deck. Every single time you were to draw a card, instead you take 1 damage, and then the next time you take 2 damage, and the next time you take 3 damage, and so it just keeps increasing until the game is eventually over. And the Mill Rogue will just be able to constantly draw you cards in that fatigue state, and you'll just constantly take more damage. It is, as you're about to see, like, incredibly powerful when it works. Now, the Warrior really doesn't have much hope, especially after burning Grom and Alexstrasza. Those are usually your win conditions in this matchup. You just want to, hopefully you draw Grom, Alexstrasza, and an activator for Grom. Just Alexstrasza them on 9. Hopefully they don't have heal bot, and then you just Grom them in the face. Or you just out pressure them out, or they don't draw Coldlight Oracle, which is what happened this game. But due to some cheeky plays by Innovation here, he may lose the game. Trying to steal that Rand Bronzebeard really wasn't worth it. He probably should have just played the Sylvanas and tried to clear the Rand Bronzebeard that turn. It just continually pushed damage. If I were the Warrior here, I mean, you really don't have any options. I mean, all your cards are situational. Like, Ysera Awakened Jet clears the board, but it doesn't develop anything. And you know there's another Coldlight in hand. You know there's another gang up still. Like, oh no! Don't do more cheeky stuff, guys. I know it's a game. Okay, he's gonna put 3 Yseras in his deck, which really doesn't help him anyway. He's never gonna have time to play them, but I guess it's fun. The correct and traditional play would have been to getting up another Coldlight Oracle, and he actually probably had lethal here, maybe very close to lethal, with putting 3 more Coldlight Oracles in his deck. But at this point, the Rogue has the game already sealed in the bag, so having some fun is all good. The Warrior's out of win conditions at this point. He has pretty much all spells on a big game hunter. Actually, there might be some hope here for the Warrior. He can play the Ysera and hopefully get another damage card, like preferably Nightmare. And if there's any way he'll have lethal, that will be no. It'll still be 14 damage. So there's honestly no hope, especially with the heal bot in hand. Rogue, the warrior thing is about to take 8, which means next turn he's dead, most likely. Because playing shield block will just put him further in fatigue, so all he has is his hero power. So I should put him out of range. Yeah, we're basically just waiting for this game to finish up. Zach lethal, perfect Reno. Okay, so what's left is what's left for Vioten is his Druid, and what's left for Innovation is his Druid and his Warrior. So it's either a mirror matchup or a disfavored matchup for Innovation. It did not look like a good position here. Druid versus Warrior. Druid is traditionally very favored. This is because Druid is a lot sticky, hard to deal with minions, and then it finishes you off with Force of Nature Savage or the turn 9 combo, which does 14 damage from hand, and plus any additional damage you gain from Savage or giving every single minion on your side of the board 2 damage. So, and just being able to burst out a warrior with only having a few minions on the board is very hard for the warrior to deal with. The warrior has a lot life gain, but when you're doing upwards of 25, sometimes even 30 damage, it's very hard to out life gain that without a really good start. This is very interesting. This is something Crimzig did, the winner of the Fireside Invitational, where when his opponent warrior, when he was playing Druid, had like a weapon that could easily deal with his minion, he would just rather not play the minion and wait to play it later, which is actually a very good play. Now, this Keeper of the Grove here wasn't. Silencing that armor smith isn't really worth it. I much would have personally preferred to see the Shredder. And just developing that Despite was 100% correct than worrying about you're missing an armor up. You're facing versus Druid, a tempo deck, so you yourself as a warrior need to get up on tempo to get an advantage. And as we can see by the knife jugglers in Vioten's hand, he is most likely a aggressive Druid, which means he's running cards like that, Fell Weaver. And Fell Weaver is a very interesting card. Whenever your opponent plays a card, remove 3 cards from the top of your deck. It's a 5-mana 8/8, so at the cost of these increased stats, you're giving up cards in your deck. Now, for most people probably wondering, why would someone play a card like this? It's because most likely the Druid isn't going to draw every single card in their deck before the game is over, which means that he can pretend any cards that are burned from Fellweaver were just at the bottom of his deck and he wouldn't draw them. But this makes this Druid deck potentially very weak to cards like Execute, as we can see in the Innovation's hand there. Now this is definitely an awesome play, and he definitely prayed to RNGesus today for that, those glorious struggle rolls. Here's the bracket, guys. I saw someone wants it. Yeah, he's basically forced to play the Far Waiver here, and he knows his opponent may have an answer, but like, there's no other play. He has to just hope there is no answer. The other matches from the previous rounds haven't been updated yet, just because I know one of them is finished, but the other is still going on, and this one is still going on. We'll update it as time goes on. Conrad should be up next, Mac. Now, I definitely actually see the Druid winning this game. The Shredder was an excellent draw, and now he has turn 9 combo in hand, and this is a very like sticky board, like, and his opponent is already less than 14. Combo out of hand is 14 damage, and so with his ooze, it would be 17 damage from hand. So he has lethal. Vioten is lethal. So well played to Vioten. That means Vioten wins 3-1 over Innovation. Very well played by Vioten. I really like to see him play. I like to see that he played Control Warrior differently, Control Warrior versus Control Warrior differently than I did, and he got really unfortunate draws in the Mill Road game, but thankfully for him, the Warrior didn't try to rush him down, so he was eventually able to draw into that Cold Light Oracle and win that game. That could have been very disastrous if the Mill Rogue would have ran into the Druid, because the Mill Rogue versus Druid matchup is catastrophically bad for the Mill Rogue. Anyways, we're going to set up the next game. Thank you guys for watching.